It's clear that Penis Gabriel is very clever at coaching terms to his benefit. He considers himself an acolyte of the great communicator, which is what they called Ronald Reagan. I'll show you how Reagan used to great communicate. Penis Gabriel mongers that my emotional identity proves something about his tour de force um, metaphysics of crippling people to bring them to comprehension of his guru-ness. All that really is exposed by emotional um, destruction. I was purposefully crippled inside, which they think is neat. I was damaged neurologically deliberately. The only thing it shows is that abortion was used as a weapon of torture, a Chinese abortion torture that Justin Chang and Steve Langer and Greg Carl came up with, that Penis Gabriel co-authored. It was a lure, reject, and kill cycle that they were using to confuse political observers about the pornography genocide that they were trying to justify. And then, of course, they pulled the old switcheroo with the Lenin business. They established a narrative about rejected crybaby Leslie Katz could have saved John Lennon and said we should inject him because he deserves it. And this criminal action from the Pennsylvania Bar Association is considered legitimate by the monsters in Seattle, who lured me here with a promise for protection from abuse and then tortured me, poisoned me. And these ravenous people have set up a feedback loop of any lie that comes their way. I'll give you an example of the show that Penis Sinfield puts on through trigger psychology, in other words, gaslighting. It's an interrogation by gaslighting by the murderers. You see, they created a media network where they released dates and then sent the voodoo of you think it was right, you have a death wish because you know in your soul that the God has been offended by your neoliberalism. And so you want to go with Gurdjieff's Gestapo, don't you? And then they play the Beatles music as the Fiddlers of Auschwitz. It comes from Gurdjieff, who was torturing people for the Gestapo in occupied Paris. One of the stories that he comes back up with is his feedback loop is about Burma. I couldn't believe, just as a child who had been destroyed by prior kidnapping incidents and torture, that he would call me up in a friendly way, like this clubhouse does, and lead me into the clutches of people who he knew were going to torture me. I couldn't believe that he would do that. And he said to me, they would have killed me if I didn't. And Penis Sinfield has hardwired that truth to say that I wasn't lured into their clutches, that I went there because I was their friend, that they weren't trying to kill me. This is what Penis Sinfield has done for decades. While the Seattle Social Services lured me exactly the same way into places they knew I would be poisoned in the mouth. People who they knew were killing bystanders. People who they knew had raped my deaf girlfriend, people who they knew were batshit crazy. They knew it. Just as surely as Boomer knew that the Pittmans were going to torture me when he lured me out that day. These stupid motherfuckers think that they can do it because the law services say it's cool because I criticized Reagan. Well, you're damn right I criticized Reagan.